Which one will work?
Are you the host?
Yeah, I'm the moderator.
Okay, so it's Idan.
Okay.
Do you want to write it so you can?
No, you were right. I will come after just making the beginning,
Yeah.
and then I want that whole thing to understand it because if you can help me, this thing here it says candlelight. What is this?
Here.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, and just do me a big favor and ask what is this. Okay.
Who
Ask
might I ask? I'm not
the
sure.
yeah. This is
Hi.
yeah. He is here. So Levi Lubni and Mandy Lubni, this brother, and the third, Mandy is a man or woman? Okay, for all Chabadniks, there are 6 men. Yeah, it will look odd. All together the same size. Liron, we have the candles will be three.
I think these might be the three candles.
Ah, okay, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, the three lamps are here. So where will we put them? We need like a table or something in front of people. And you know when people put items, that's when people do. The table and matches, wood matches, not ones that they
Do you want me to write the pronunciation for you?
Idan?
Idan.
No,
Yeah.
say
Perfect.
it.
Thank you so much.
Honored guests, would you please take your seats? We would like to start in a few minutes. Okay.
The candles at the end.
The candles at the end.
I think we said Rabbi Duchman, Ross, and not Ross.
She said Mendel.
Mendel. I think.
But Mendel is his brother, so I thought there's
Who is
four rabbis.
Who's here? I saw
I don't think
Mendel.
I didn't see Levi. So
Levi's
if he
supposed
shows
to be
up,
here.
we'll choose one of them. I've got about 3-4 rabbis here, international ones. You don't want? Can I?
Who?
There are 4 rabbis here from
Mי פה
America,
מהרבנים?
from this one. אז אני רציתי רק to change,
Because if
to add to the Chabad people, just one Chabad, rather than to have 3 of them, and there are others. It's up to you. Just that.
I think one Chabad.
Yeah.
Haliva or
Yeah.
Pinto are here?
No,
or?
no.
Yeah.
The Chabad should be Levi Duchman.
Is he here?
He will be here.
Let me know when he comes, because I know, Levi last time also said he's coming. So. Would you kindly take your seats? The live stream will begin in a few minutes. We will have a tour afterwards, and we will also have time to schmooze afterwards. Live stream, I can start? You can start. כבוד הרבנים, Your Excellencies, honored guests, welcome to the Crossroad Museum Complex. Crossroad of Civilizations was established in 2012. So this is not Abraham Accords. This is a vision by the founder, His Excellency Ahmed al-Mansouri. And this is the right place for today's event. This event is live streamed across the world. It is Holocaust Memorial Day, 27th of January. The date is that of the liberation of Auschwitz. In 1945, 27th of January, Auschwitz, the biggest killing machine in history, was liberated. 1.3 million people were imprisoned in there, of which 1.1 million were exterminated. Holocaust Memorial Day commemorates that genocide on the scale that we have not seen before. 11 million people were killed. 6 million of them were Jews. And today, we commemorate, first and foremost, of course, the Jewish Holocaust, but also the many others that since then, when we promised, humanity promised never again, it happened many times again. I would like to ask you now to please stand up for a moment of silence while you contemplate the figures I just mentioned. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Edwin Shuker. I'm Vice President of the Board of Deputies of British Jews, but today I have the absolute privilege to be to moderate this incredible event. I would like now to call on the founder and the vision behind this place and behind many others, His Excellency Ahmed al-Mansouri.
Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us today. I would like to thank especially our partners who made this event successful with us, hopefully, who participate with us. We have here His Excellency Amir Hayek, the Ambassador of the State of Israel, His Excellency Alexander Scharpner, the Ambassador of Germany, and also Her Excellency Liron, the Consul General of our great partner, Consul General of the State of Israel. And also we have our partners, Edwin Shuker. He was been with us from the beginning, and also we are very honored to talk about our real VVIP, Mr. Jed'oun Liv, the survivor. He's a hero who survived, the Holocaust, and he's here with us, and that's a great honor for us to have him with us here. Also, His Excellency, we have Mr. Jeffrey Ohrenstein, the chairman of the Memorial Scroll Trust. Because of him, we have a scroll from the Torah that survived from the Holocaust. Also, we'd like to thank the Jewish Agency for being with us here together, also as our partner, Ms. Sarah. Thank you very much for being here. And if I may thank one person, because of her, we have this Holocaust Gallery. Because of her great support, because of her, we made the first event as Ms. Yael Grafi. She's the one who really worked very hard to make this Holocaust Gallery here. And I would like really to thank her, and she's hopefully she's willing also to give you a special tour after the event. Having said that, also I would like also to thank all of you, our partners, our friends, our media, to be here with us. As you know, as Edwin was mentioning, this day is the International Day of the Holocaust, of the memorial in the world. As we know, also in the world we have kind of denial for this day everywhere. But one thing I would like to emphasize, the roots for the denial that we have in the Holocaust as an event, as a historical event that took place in the Middle East is different than the roots for the denial in Europe and the United States and other places. I have great respect for the people who really changing their mind, also coming forward to understand it, to learn about it, and also not to be in denial. If we are righteous, if there's anybody who's righteous, has the power of being a good person, regardless of different perspectives, they should not deny such atrocity. It was the biggest crime, the biggest genocide against humanity, unfortunately, mainly against the Jews, because of their race, because of their religion, or whatever other reason they have. But that crime that happened, it's very, very shameful for people who committed it, shameful for people who collaborated, shameful for people who did not talk about it, and also shameful for the deniers. So it's very important for us really to open this subject by emphasizing, that we have to really separate between differences in terms of political differences, but we should never accept any crime against one person. We have one of the part of the verse in the Quran, وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. It's the same verse also in the Mishnah with the Jewish, they have it, who saves one life, saves the whole humanity. How about when people commit crimes of killing 11 million, 6 million from one race? You know, how devastating that for the whole world. And until now we are suffering. We're not going to stop such atrocities. There are many other atrocities, but not the genocide like happened to the Jews. So, you know, many people, they ask me, you know, why don't we talk about others? No, we want to learn. We want to learn about the roots of these things so we can prevent it. The whole idea to remember this day, to commemorate and also to respect the victims, and also to respect also the righteous among the nations who risk their life to save the Jews at the same time, from different religions, different cultures. It's very important just to remember that so people will try to find the ways to prevent, because unfortunately it's happening. Doesn't matter how civilized we are, doesn't matter how strong we are, doesn't matter how knowledgeable we are, it's continuing, it's happening, and it might happen again and again. And the rise of anti-Semitism, the rise of Jewish hatred, is increasing, unfortunately, all around the world. So, we have to play a part there. That's why, I'm emphasizing, for the importance of having this event. And thank you all of you for being with us. And I don't want to talk about the Holocaust commemoration more because His Excellency, the Ambassador of Israel, he's the best to talk about it. And, we're very honored to have him as a partner. And he has always been a great support for us. And I would like to leave the floor for His Excellency, the Ambassador of Israel, to come and speak. Thank you very much.
May I also greet with us the Ambassador of Czech, Mr. Jim Slavik, Your Excellency. You are more than welcome, and thank you for accepting our invitation. May I now call on His Excellency, the Israeli Ambassador, Amir Haik.
His Excellency Ahmed al-Mansouri, brother, I can call you, the founder of this great place, His Excellency Alexander Schofler, the Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany, Her Excellency Sybil Pef, where is she? The Consul General of the Republic of Germany here in Dubai, His Excellency Sean Murphy, Chargé d'Affaires of the United States Embassy in Abu Dhabi, Her Excellency Liron Zalansky, our Consul General here in Dubai and one of the partners for this event here in Dubai. Distinguished guests, rabbis, representatives, honorable. It's not easy for me to stand here today, but I will elaborate it later on. But please allow me to thank the organizers of this great gathering. First of all, the one and only His Excellency Ahmed al-Mansouri, who is really very unique. I think that he should get applause. I think he needs to get it. Because the vision behind his actions and the vision behind this place, it's something very touchy for us Israelis, for us Jews, and for all of us who were, suffered from hateness. Of course, this event is together with the German consulate here and in the German mission here in the UAE, and of course our consulate here in Dubai. And I'd like to thank the organizers for that and Liron for the initiative. With your permission, I would like to take you a little bit to my childhood and to talk a little bit about my childhood. as children, we lived in Israel among Holocaust survivors. As children, we saw them in the stores, on the street, and also as parents. Oh, sorry. As children, we saw them in the stores, on the streets, and also as parents of our friends. And it was very easy to recognize them. With the tattoo and the number on their arm, but it was easy to recognize them mainly because of their silence. They were silent. As if they swallowed the words together with the unbearable pain that they went through. Among with the unbearable suffering of losing their families to the evil machine of the Nazi monster. The friends who their parents were survivors were also silent among most of the time, and when they spoke, they told us about nightmares. They told us about the nights that their parents have been through, screaming and having really nightmares, literally. The years have passed, and today there are not, unfortunately, not many survivors. And one of them is here, and I think that I know that we are very welcoming you, Yaakov. I think that to hear you here tonight will be very touching for all of us. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here with us. It's very important for us. Today, we are facing those who dare to deny the Holocaust, dare to spread lies and deny the terrible past. And for them, we will say, that's it, no more, never again. I cannot continue I prepared my speech. Usually I'm not reading from writing, but for this event I prepared it, and I prepared it before the nightmare that we had in Israel last night and this morning. I think that when we are talking about remembering the Holocaust, it's remembering that the Jewish people around the world are suffering from violence. And what happened last night, when innocent people in Jerusalem went to pray in a synagogue, and they were killed only because they are Jewish, it's something that we cannot live with. Today, this morning, we had another terror attack in Jerusalem. We would like to live with peace with everyone, but we will fight for that. We will fight to protect our citizens. We will fight to protect the Jewish people around the world. This is another meaning of never again. We cannot settle for the memory. Memory will teach us how terrible it was, but it's not enough. Each and every one of us must fight every manifestation of racism, every intolerance towards others, and we must fight the violence against person regarding being a person. We are here at the United Arab Emirates, and I'm standing here, the first Israeli ambassador here in this beautiful, tolerant country. I've been through a lot of moments, exciting moments here in the United Arab Emirates. Very exciting. But I want to tell you about particularly exciting moment that did not happen here. It happens in Jerusalem. In September 2022, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed arrived on an historical visit to Israel. As a part of his visit, he arrived to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Jerusalem. Together with him came all the members of the Emirati delegation and ministers Reem El Hashemi, Minister Noor Al Kaabi, Minister Sayag. I can tell you that when I saw His Highness, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed, there giving a speech in Yad Vashem, tears fall from my eyes. Tears that only such historical moment can issue. It is recently announced that the UAE schools will teach about the Holocaust. Many people here asked me about it. It did not surprise me. This is directly continuation of the tolerant leadership of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed and the visit of His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed to Yad Vashem. This is a direct continuation of the tolerant spirit of Sheikh Zayed, may his memory be blessed, was continued by His Highness Sheikh Khalifa, may his memory be blessed, and which is continued in the way of peace, brotherhood, and tolerance by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. I'm proud to stand here today. I am proud to continue the little I can, as an ambassador to make the vision of the leaders, Trump, Netanyahu, and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, a reality. And to become a reality, it's not enough to deal with economy. It's not enough to deal with security. It's not enough to deal with strategy. To make this vision a reality, we must deal with education. We must educate for tolerance, for better future, for the future generations. We must be human being. Above all, being a human being who respects human beings. All the rest will follow. Thank you.
I share with the ambassador one unknown fact. We are both Iraqi Jews. We both speak Arabic, eat Arabic, hear Arabic music. And for us, this is home, coming back home. I want to call now on His Excellency Alexander Schonfelder, the ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany in the UAE, to share his thoughts with us.
Dear Gidon Lev, dear Amir, dear Ahmed Al-Mansouri, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Amir, you said it's not easy for you to stand here tonight. It's not easy for me as well. It's not easy. Yesterday, 78 years ago, the concentration camp of Auschwitz was liberated. It was only then that the world began to fully understand the full scale of the horror of the Shoah. I am convinced, for all times, the Holocaust will stand as an unparalleled crime against humanity, as a total breakdown of the most basic values of humanity. And it's sad, but it's the country that I represent today that bears the moral responsibility of the deeds of our ancestors. The megalomaniac project of the murder of all Jews may have been the idea of one person, but it was put into practice with deadly precision by so many. And even more looked away, did not want to know. How? Why? I think there is no satisfactory answer to that question, and I feel the shame, the responsibility growing from it. It is an ineffaceable part of our identity, to the basic understanding of our state, and it belongs to the core tenet of the German Constitution. It is enshrined in its very first article: human dignity is inviolable. To respect and protect it shall be the duty of all state authority. Ladies and gentlemen, it comes close to a miracle that today relations between Jewish communities across the world and Germany are close and trustful. It comes close to a miracle that Israel and Germany call each other partners and even friends. And I, myself, have found a new friend in Abu Dhabi, Amir. Thank you very much. And I would like to add, it is also very remarkable that we meet here in Dubai today. That would have been hard to imagine just a few years ago. It shows once again what a profound change the Abraham Accords brought about. We must preserve the memory of the Shoah. It is therefore right and very welcome that the United Arab Emirates have decided to include the Holocaust in the curriculum of their schools. While we are grateful for all these positive developments, we cannot be satisfied. Still, there are too many people who deny that the Shoah ever happened. Still, synagogues have to be guarded by police all around the world, all in Germany as well. Still, we read the anti-Semitic attacks against our Jewish citizens. Never must we allow us to be complacent, to shrug and say, well, there are always a few crazy people. We have made the painful experience that it always starts with a few. That is why our attitude must be one of zero tolerance when facing anti-Semitism, especially in Germany, in Europe as a whole, and worldwide. Allow me to finish by thanking Ahmed Al-Mansouri, the founder of this museum, the Israeli Consul General Liron Zaslansky, and the German Consul General Sibylle Pfaff, as well as the many other friends and organizations that have made this evening possible. But most of all, I would like to thank Gidon Leff for having made the travel here to Dubai to speak to us today and to make sure that the Shoah will never be forgotten. Thank you.
I now call on Her Excellency Liron Zelansky to take over from me and to introduce our main guest for the evening.
Excellencies, guests, Gidon. I want to thank my friend Ahmed Al-Mansouri for hosting us in his museum, the German Mission in the UAE, and the Jewish Agency for partnering with us in organizing this meaningful event. As time moves further from the events of the Holocaust, and as the generation changes, it's hard to grasp the magnitude of horrors that happened in Europe 7 decades ago. The way to remember is not in data and numbers, but it is by remembering who were the people, how did the lives of the glorious Jewish communities look like, and what are their names. Around you, you will find an exhibition displaying different stories of children during the Holocaust. The stories focus on their experiences from different perspectives, from identity struggle to child labor and longing for home. The exhibition was created by Yad Vashem, Israel's official Holocaust Remembrance Museum. In the exhibition, you will find the story of Maud Steckelmacher, a Holocaust survivor from the then Czechoslovakia, who described her experience undergoing horrors at the Theresienstadt ghetto from the perspective of friendship. We became used to many things. We slept on the floor on a huge sour-smelling hole, a stinking latrine with no privacy, hunger, siege. Luckily for me, I went through all of this together with my friend Ruthie. After that, Ruthie disappeared, having been sent to Poland. The transport left so rapidly, one after the other, and we didn't even have a chance to say goodbye. I often think of Ruthie, about what she would have said if she had seen skyscrapers or a jet plane. She was not yet 13 when apparently they shot her. My grandmother was smuggled out of Bratislava, Slovakia in 1939. Maud and Ruthie's story makes me think how lucky my grandmother was. You will also find the story of Yosef Alterwein Tirosh, who mentioned the struggles of a child to be nourished during the Holocaust. In the ghetto, I ran around with other kids searching for food, stealing food. We would dig under the wall. We were kids. They didn't catch me, and that's how I used to bring home food. That was my childhood. Now, it is my honor to present to you Gidon Lev, a Holocaust survivor who flew in from Israel to Dubai, especially to bear testimony and share with us his story. Gidon was amongst the only children to have survived the horrors in the ghetto in Theresienstadt in the Czech Republic. Gidon and his partner Julie are Holocaust activists, educating the younger generation on the Holocaust and combating anti-Semitism by posting innovative TikTok videos with more than 400,000 followers and telling Gidon's testimony to the masses. They were awarded the Shimon Peres Prize in Berlin and were recognized in the top 100 influential Jews list for 2022. Please, Gidon, you are invited to take the stage.
No, I will stand. Okay. Good evening. Salam alaikum. Hi. Yes, I am Gidon Lev. And I am thankful to all of you to have invited me to you, to speak to you, to tell you my story. I'm truly flabbergasted. It's a very good English word. Some of you may not even know it. But the fact is, to be here, I couldn't have dreamed in 1,000 years. Truly. All right. Now, true enough, true enough, my name is Gidon Lev, but I was not born Gidon Lev. I was born Peter Wolfgang Löw. And you might ask, Ma pitom, how come Wolfgang? What is Wolfgang? I didn't even know it. Turns out that my grandfather, whom you see right here on the left, played the viola. And he even owned a Stradivarius viola. And I guess he loved Mozart. So he told my mother, Wolfgang, you give him the middle name Wolfgang, a very un-Jewish thing to do. We give the family name and the private name. Middle name, very unusual. Still, she did it, and I only discovered it when I saw the original birth certificate that Wolfgang, ma pitom, how come? And so that was my name. Now, we are going back to 1934 because we have a picture here. Let's see, I don't want to be in my way. We have a picture here of my family, my great-grandmother, my grandfather, my mother, and my father. This is 1934. But I'm here too, because I'm in my mommy's tummy. Because I was born in March 1935. And this was 1934. Now, the picture is taken in Karlovy Vary, Karlsbad, on a promenade, walking, 1934. Do they look happy? They do, because they were. What was happening in Germany? It's in Deutschland, it's not in Czechoslovakia. So they were happy. They were expecting a baby, me. And this is the grandfather who played the viola. And this is my great-grandmother, Rosa. We think that people, the Jewish people, living in this case in Czechoslovakia, were perhaps religious, observant, somewhere, but most people were not. They were well assimilated, they had a good life, they had professions, they felt themselves totally safe at that time, even though Hitler was already in power. Very shortly, 1935, Hitler took over Germany. Then came 1938. 1938, in Munich, Hitler, Mussolini, Chamberlain, and the French foreign minister, which I can't ever remember his name, decided to make a compromise. What do you ask, what compromise? The compromise was that Hitler actually wanted all of Czechoslovakia, but he didn't get it at that point. So Chamberlain said to prevent another war, because he had observed the First World War, and it was a horrific war. I don't know if it was more horrific than the Second World War, but all wars are pretty much horrific. We know that. And decided, okay, he will agree to give the Sudetenland, the Sudetim, this part, let me show you, I have a little map here. This orange part here of Czechoslovakia to Hitler, so that there wouldn't be any war, prevent war. By the way, the Czechs were not invited to this meeting because Hitler didn't recognize the existence of Czechoslovakia. And just remember that 1918, the end of World War I, was when Czechoslovakia was born under Thomas Garrick Masaryk. Yes? Some of us remember it. Some of us weren't alive yet then. Neither was I. The fact is that within hours, the German army was inside the Sudetenland, including Karlsbad. And my parents, please switch next picture. Okay. Somebody? No, the next picture. Oh, well, it will come, it will come. Anyways, my parents had a business, what we called in German Alteisengeschäft. In Hebrew, Chatzer Gurtaot, Barzel. Oh, there it is. Very good. Oh, have to have pictures. These are pictures. And there you see me, 1938, my other grandfather, he's holding me. That's me, 3 years old. And that's my father. It's my grandmother. And here too, we were still happy. But within days, the German army, being in Karlovy Vary, in Karlsbad, the Jews started feeling that they are not wanted anymore. They are not allowed to work in public places. They are not allowed to work as doctors. They are not allowed to buy things from, no, they were allowed to buy things from non-Jews, but not sell. But those people that were not Jewish did not sell to the Jews. And many restrictions immediately befell these Jewish people living in the Sudetenland. Now, 3 months after the Germans took over that part of Czechoslovakia, my parents and grandparents decided we can't continue like this. We can't sell anything. We can't buy anything. How can we live? So I remember, and I have to remind you, I was 3 years old. And I guarantee you, if you think back when you were 3 or 4 or 5, there are many things you don't remember. But here and there you remember something. And I will tell you something that I remember. I remember in the middle of the night going to the train station with my grandparents and my parents and leaving Karlovy Vary and going to Prague, because Prague was still a free country. It was still Czechia. And I remember that I had a tricycle, a little tricycle, red, beautiful tricycle with black handlebars. And of course I wanted to take it. And my father and my mother isn't here in the picture, said, no, you can't take it. We have so many suitcases, so many blankets, no. And my grandfather, who you can see is holding me, he loved me and I loved him. He said, I'll take it, 9. We'll buy you a new one. Of course, that never happened. The fact is, we got on the train, and an hour and a half later, we arrived in Prague. We arrived in Prague without my tricycle. And in Prague, everything was still okay until Hitler and his army got on the main road from Karlovy Vary to Prague. And 3 months later, Hitler arrived in Prague and said, there is no more Czechoslovakia. It is now the protectorate of Bohemia and Morava. He even went up to Hradčany, which is the castle on the mountain above Prague, which is actually the government seat even today, and declared there, from there he declared, there is no more Czechoslovakia. It is all now part of Germany. And we Jews in Czechoslovakia started feeling every day, every week, a new order. First, Jews cannot go to any theater or concert or public performance. Jews have to be at home by 8 o'clock. Jews must hand in their cameras, their typewriters, their radios. Oh, radios. Remember, there was no internet or little telephones at that time. So the radio was the only connection people had to the outside world. And anybody caught with a radio, if some neighbor heard noise and reported it, then the SS came, not the SS, the Gestapo came, took away the radio, found it, took it away, and took the entire family away. So people went and handed in everything they had. Of course, bank accounts were confiscated. It went to the Third Reich. Jewelry, rings, whatever they were of value had to be handed in. In other words, day by day there were new laws. Public transportation. Public transportation, only in certain trolleys could you go. And when you could go as a Jew, then you had to sit at the back, if there was room. If there's no room, so you wait another 20 minutes, half an hour, for another tramway to come by. Day by day, you could feel the terrible pressure, the terrible isolation, segregation, and that actually was the final sort of nail into the roof when they decided that all Jews must wear an identity to show that they were Jews. Because as long as they didn't have that, if you didn't look like a Jew, sometimes you could sneak in and out of some place where you were not allowed. Because contrary to what the Jews were perceived as, that all Jews have big noses, which is actually a little bit of bullshit. Sorry for that expression. We don't all have big noses. Some do, but some don't. So they made us all wear, from 10 years and older, this Magen David, and written on it, Jude. This is not a plaything. This was my mother's. This was my mother's original. And you weren't given. You were sold. You had to buy them. And since we changed clothing from day to day, don't know, so my mother was a little bit clever. She said, I'm not buying 10 of these. I'm buying one, and then she put here a pin at the back, and when she wore a sweater, she put it on a sweater. When she wore a jacket, she put it on a jacket. But this was the final, really, order that segregated, isolated, humiliated, totally took all rights away from the Jews. It's important to realize that we talk always about the Holocaust. We see it in millions, in thousands. But how did it develop? How did it become what it became? It was step by step. By the time the Jews were being sent to the camps, and they didn't call it concentration camps, they called it resettlement, the famous word settlement. And they were already so degraded and so humiliated that it was just another step on the way. And when I can tell you once again something that I remember as a little boy. By that time I was already 5 years old. It was 1940, yes. 1940, I was born in 35. In 1940, my grandpa, this one here, took me or used to take me to a park, little park around the corner. We lived on Italska Street. And around the corner was a little park. In the park, there were swings, and there were slides, and there was one swing. I remember it like it was today. And it was, in the form of a canoe. And I would run to the canoe and climb in, and my grandpa would push me, and I was in seventh heaven. And then one day, we came there, and I ran to the swing, and I climbed him, and he said, no, nein, 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 du kannst nicht da hineingehen. Nein, warum? Aber Grandpa, warum nicht? Was habe ich what did I do? Was I a bad boy? No. And I didn't want to go, and I was angry at him. And he took me in his arm, and he pushed and took me out. And then he showed me, you see over there the sign? It says, Juden verboten. Juden verboten. What is Juden verboten for a 5-year-old child? I didn't understand. He explained to me, but of course I didn't understand. And that was another thing that I remember as if it was today. And that's how it affected us. And then in December, end of November 1941, the first relocation, resettlement transports was going from Prague to where? To Theresienstadt. In German, Theresienstadt, Theresien. And I remember, and this you do remember, that my grandpa and my father came to the hospital. Why was I in the hospital? Because they were taking out my tonsils. You know, when you take out tonsils, you can't speak. And I remember they came and they brought me zmrzlina. Zmrzlina, terrible word. Zmrzlina, ice cream. It means ice cream. And I couldn't speak to them. And they told me, don't worry, Peter, you will come with mommy also to the same place. Because the first two transports to Terezin were by about each time I think something between 200 and 250 men. And they had promised the men that their wives would follow them. And so they said goodbye. And 10 days later, December 14th, my father and grandfather were on December 4th. 10 days later, December 14th, we had to report to the train station, Bahnhof. And if you can imagine, in my mind, it seemed such a huge place, like the Grand Central Station of New York. Of course it wasn't. It was me who was small, but the place was no bigger than this. And it was cold floor. December in Czechoslovakia is very cold. I just was there. And believe me, it was 0 or less than 0. And the fact is, imagine 200 or more mothers, women with 1 or 2 children, with their suitcases and blanket rolls and whatever the food they had brought with them, spread on the floor. Everybody pushing little plots here, little plot. No, this is my plot. This is my plot. No, this is mine. You know, people are human. People are human. And they wanted to have a little place to stay, even though it was cold. 2 nights, I remember, sleeping on the cold floor in December, I think December 12th, because December 14th, the train arrived. We got on the train, and we were off to Theresienstadt. Now, I don't know if you know anything of Theresienstadt. I'll just give you a very couple of sentences. Theresienstadt had been an army camp from before the First World War. There were Kasernen, there were barracks. The barracks were not something out of wood, and I'll show you something here. I brought a picture of it. Here it is. There were something like this. About a dozen barracks like that. And each one had a name. Hamburger Kaserne, Magdeburg Kaserne, Dresden Kaserne. That's the one I was in. And on the train, we were stuck in, this was not a cattle train, it was actually a regular train. But we were, instead of 4 people sitting in a cabin, there was 8 or 10 with children, with baggage. And when we arrived in a place called Bohuszowice. Bohuszowice. Why Bohuszowice? It's not Terezin. Because the train tracks didn't go to Terezin. They only went to Bohuszowice. And here, once again, I can tell you something very personal. I remember getting off in the late afternoon in Bohuszowice, which is 3 kilometers from Terezin, holding on to a suitcase and a knapsack on my back. And it was freezing cold. I almost can feel it now. And walking alone, schlepping, and my mother in front of me with 2 suitcases. And then a man walking next to me said, let me help you. I could hardly walk. And he helped me. And we made it. We made it to Theresienstadt. And when we got there, one of the women that was walking along said, so when do we see our husbands, our men? And a soldier called back, morgen früh, 6 Uhr. Seid ihr aus von dem Fenster und können sehen, die Männer marchen bei, gehen zur Arbeit. Morgen früh, 6 Uhr. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. In the morning at 6 o'clock, I remember they stuck us. We were in the Dresden barracks, and on the 3rd floor, you can see there are 3 floors. There's the inside yard, and 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floor. We were on the 3rd floor in a room the size of a regular kitchen. We were at 12 people. 12 people, crowded, children, baggage, bedrolls. It was, once again, horrific. Horrific. But at 6 o'clock in the morning, we got up as kids, ran to the windows, looked out, and yes, we saw the men marching by in rows of 5, 50, groups of 50, 5, and soldiers walking on the edge of them. And every one of us would call, Papa, Papa. I called Ernst, Ernst. That was the name of my dad. And they didn't look up. Why they didn't look up? Because they were afraid to be hit with the butt of a rifle. So they didn't look up. They were on their way to the mines. They were mining mica, which the Germans used for insulation. You had to split it. There were women who were working in factories there, sitting around tables a little bigger than this, and with a knife, thin knife, had to split the mica so that the Germans could use it for insulating materials in the electronics industry. And I remember that I saw my father, but I didn't see my grandfather. Why didn't I see my grandfather? I didn't know at that time. It turns out that he was ill and was put in a special place for sick old people. And there he died 2 years later. I do not remember ever seeing him again. I don't. I do remember seeing my father a couple of times during the time, until 1940, end of 1943, 44, when he was sent to Auschwitz. Now, can we put back the picture, the first picture, please? Is it possible? Yes. I want to tell you something. You know, once again, I want to repeat. Things we remember as children are not so many, but there are some very special moments. Now, I'm sort of jumping about a little bit. This great-grandmother arrived in Terezin in 1944 for 3 months. By the time she arrived, she was 83 years old. And the elderly people, the older people in Theresienstadt had it the worst. They got the worst food, the least food. They couldn't work. They were sick. They died. And by the way, though Theresienstadt was not a death camp, over 33,000 people died there from hunger, from labor, from infections, from just sheer despair. And this old lady arrived there, and she was put together with the other elderly people in one of the barracks. I think it was the Magdeburg Kaserne for elderly people. And they had a terrible time, terrible time. And one day, about 2 months after she arrived, my mother was told by somebody that her grandmother was being sent to the east, to a concentration camp. Which one? Treblinka, a NATO death camp. One of the worst. One of the worst. And I remember her going down with my mother to the train station. There actually was no train station. They had built the railway lines into Terezin, but there was no station. There was a little building the size of a little house, which was sort of a guard house. And she was standing next to it, and other elderly people that hardly could walk or drag themselves were standing and sitting there waiting to be loaded onto the train. And this time the train was not anymore a regular train, but cattle trains. And she saw my mother and me, and she saw the daga, the worry on my mother's face. And she said, "Oi, hab keine Angst, don't worry, was können die machen mit mir? What can they do with me? I'm an old lady, ich bin eine alte Weib. Ich kann nicht mal so arbeiten." Of course, that was a death sentence. She said, "I can't even work." Little did she know that she was being sent to Treblinka, and there was no possibility that she would live. She would live, because Treblinka was a death camp NATO. And can you imagine this old fine lady? She was dressed in a fine long dress, feeling, I don't know, even hopeful still, arriving in Treblinka, being asked to take off her clothing, being shaved of all the hair, and then told, now you're going to take showers. She probably thought, oh, finally I'm going to be clean. Little did she know this was a shower of gas. And that's how she died. And that's how many, many died. By the way, even though more people died in Auschwitz than any other place, in Treblinka, 900,000 people died within 1 year. In Auschwitz, the 1.5 million or so people that died, were put to death, was over a period of 3-4 years. In Treblinka, 1 year, 900,000. And when they finished that quota, they leveled the place down completely. Planted trees. Only after the war did they manage to dig up the ashes from the people that were in the ground. Now, I just want to say a couple of more words about Theresienstadt. Theresienstadt, two main things were horrific, maybe more things. One was hunger. We were hungry from morning to evening, from evening to morning. We received a slice of bread and a little bowl of soup. That was it. That was it. From time to time, a little marmalade. So you can ask, so what did you, we were hungry. Kids, I was together with my mother in this Dresden Kaserne. And we weren't allowed to learn. We weren't given lessons. But we were trying to find places to work. Why? Because if you did something, work something, maybe you had a chance to get some kind of food. In Terezin, they didn't call it stealing. They called it schleissen, like the British called pinching. You know, you pinch something. You don't call it stealing, you pinch it. So that's what we tried to do. How? For example, when they delivered trucks with breads, loaves of breads to the barracks, to our barracks, we ran to the trucks and helped them unload and carry the loaves of bread on our arms, in hope that maybe we can break off a little piece of bread from there, or find a bread, or maybe even steal an entire bread, which was probably not possible to do. But then one day I remember, in the corner, we saw some barrels. You know, like beer barrels, but there was no beer in them. But there had been some marmalade in them. And I remember taking some kind of piece of excuse me, cardboard and scraping the inside of the barrel and get a little bit of marmalade to put on my piece of bread. Or, for example, I remember, and I was 8 years old, 78 years old. I wasn't a very big boy. I'm not big now, so you can imagine how small I was then. Working to clean and keep the horses from the officers shiny and clean and fed and clean the manure. and in hope that somehow we'll find something. And the fact is, I was lucky. The officer that I was dealing with his horse, from time to time, left a little piece of bread or piece of tomato or half an apple on the side, sort of. And he knew I would find it. And that I had. Some kids, they got kicked or beaten because they didn't do a good job. I'm a hard worker, so I did a good job, even as a little kid. So, other thing about the Riesenstadt which was special was that the Germans used it as an example of how well they were treating the Jews, because they called it resettlement. So from time to time, the Red Cross would arrive, especially when the Danish Jews arrived, which was already near the end in 1944. They had made some kind of agreement with the Germans, that their citizens must be treated well. So they arranged for the Danish Red Cross to come. But the Danish Red Cross didn't come and speak to you personally. They stood over there in the corner and took pictures. And the Germans spent months renovating some streets in the camp, painting them, setting up stores. They set up a store. I mean, it's unimaginable, Osmo. Set up a store with clothing. Where did they get the clothing? The clothing that they had taken from the last transport that arrived from Brno, from Praha. Made them iron it, set it up, put it in, and they printed special money, like money that had absolutely no value. Like, you know, you speak the game Monopoly, that has no value except when you play it. The same thing. It was sort of Monopoly. And they took pictures of people going into the store and buying, coming out with clothing. And I remember one other thing. There was a park, a playground, which we never could go to during the 4 years that I was there. But that day, the Germans took us by truck from our barracks to the playground and said, "Spiel, play." So what did we do? Of course, we played. And the Red Cross are taking pictures, and they're making a film to show the world how wonderful they're treating the Jews, how the settlement is working. And the Jews are running their own show. And that was another false picture, lie. True, the elders of Terezin were telling people where to work, when to work, how to work, what to do, when to do. But it was all from the SS in the camp who told them when, how, if. When they told them tomorrow morning we want 1,000 people at the train station. And when the elders told them, but we don't have, they all are working, because the approach of the Jewish elders was, as long as they are working and doing a job, they need us, the people are safe. But was once again a lie, because when they wanted to send them, the people had to be, you can't release that person, release somebody else. Release somebody else. As you also know probably, because in the Czech Republic, the Jewish people were really the skilled, the musicians, the artists, the painters, the players, the conductors. And there were concerts being held there. And there were shows being put on. That's true. What is also true, though, that the day after, or the week after, or a month after, those same musicians, or those same players, or those same artists ended up in Auschwitz or other camps. Sometimes a day or two before a performance, one of the players had to be replaced because he received notification to report. And they did it. And then you can ask yourself, how could these people do this? Play, sing, perform. And the answer of the people was, as long as we are being creative, being active, we are alive. We feel as we are living, and we are. What will be tomorrow, we don't know. And by the way, we did not know in Terezin that the camps were death camps. We knew, or we heard, that they were hard, terrible, but that there were gas chambers, that they were shooting them next to a ditch. People dug their own ditch and then were shot. It is unimaginable. So, I think I told you enough about this terrible part of our history. And true, I am now active in telling my story, in explaining. I'm on TikTok, and I discovered there are so many people who are hateful, who deny that there ever existed a Holocaust. One person said straight out to me, "You are a liar, you lie." I said, "Yes, you think so? If it was a lie, I wish it had been, because had it been a lie, I would have had a father and a grandfather and grandmothers and uncles and aunts and cousins and second cousins. I had none of them, including I didn't have a childhood at all. I spent 4 years in Theresienstadt, from December 14th till May 8th, when the Red Army freed us. And a couple of weeks after that, my mother and I returned to Prague. And I prayed for 2 months every morning, "Lieber Gott, dear God, please return my daddy." And he didn't come back. Neither did 26 members of my family. Now I suggest, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Please.
Thank you very, very much. We will ask to take questions afterwards, if you don't mind.
Very good.
Thank
Fine.
you very, very much. Elie Wiesel said, whoever listens to a witness becomes a witness. Tonight, Gideon Lev made each one of us a witness. When we leave this event tonight, we should leave it not the same people as we walked in. I now want to call on my friend Jeffrey Orenstein, chairman of the Memorial Scroll Trust, to share with us a few words.
Your Excellencies, Reverend Sirs, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for participating in this very special and emotional event this evening. I would particularly like to thank the Czech Ambassador, His Excellency Juri Slavik, for coming because of our close relationship with their embassy in London. Just adding, I would like to mention how emotional the description that Mr. Lev gave. And I would like to just mention a couple of statistics. In the Czech Republic in 1939, there were some 118,000 Jews. 88,000 were deported. 78,800, in round numbers, were murdered. Another 7,000 were killed before they could be deported. Some 25,000 actually managed to escape between 1939 and 1941, providing they could A, pay enormous taxes, and B, get a visa. And I'm ashamed to say that my country, the United Kingdom, and the United States did not offer, almost, or hardly offered any visas. They went to countries like Venezuela, Panama, Bolivia, Chile, Peru, Ecuador, who we decry so often. I think those facts should be remembered. Yesterday, I received an email from a rabbi in the USA who's worked and helped the Memorial Scrolls Trust for many years. And he wrote to me and he said, Jeffrey, he said, I'm sure that when you became chairman of the Memorial Scrolls Trust in 2015, you never in your wildest dreams would imagine that you would be going to Dubai and presenting a scroll to a museum in a Muslim country. He's right. I'm amazed, and it's wonderful. And this is possibly the best present I could have on this day, my 83rd birthday. So I'm really, really happy about that. The Torah scroll we're talking about was given the number MST 537 when it came to London. It is one of 7 scrolls that came from Svetlana Tsasevo in Bohemia, and is one of 200,000 objects that survived the Shoah, the Holocaust, in Prague. To this day, we're not really certain exactly how and why these scrolls and other items, artifacts of Judaica, managed to survive. For many years, we believed it was that the Nazis had a concept, an idea, to create a museum of an extinct race at the end of the war. However, that is now believed to be a myth. The problem is, though, that these 200,000 items came from 118 towns around the Protectorate, and they were stored in over 50 buildings in the center of Prague. So the alternative is that the Jewish community somehow convinced the Nazis that this treasure should be collected and kept in safekeeping in Prague. It's hard to believe it. And the directors of Yad Vashem, who I speak to, tell me they still discuss it today. We never know why. But the miracle is that they survived. In 1964, thanks to the generosity of one individual, an Englishman called Ralph Yablon, 1,564 scrolls were brought from the then communist regime and brought to the Westminster Synagogue in London, and they created the Memorial Scrolls Trust to care for and look after these scrolls. Immediately, the requests from all over the world, and since then, some 1,400 scrolls have been distributed to 1,300 communities and organizations around the world, from Alaska to New Zealand, from Mumbai to Buenos Aires. They can be found almost everywhere in the world. Most of the scrolls were used for religious purposes, but many of them have also been used for educational and interfaith work. About a year ago, we had a visit from my friend Edwin and His Excellency, who wished to come to the museum to see our Torah scrolls. In fact, it was in September. I'm having an elderly moment. So they came in September and they wanted to see the museum. Immediately after the tour, His Excellency was so impressed, he said, "Is there a scroll that is available?" And we didn't have many because most of them were originally allocated, and the ones we get back have come from communities that unfortunately have closed. But we looked around, and he and our eyes alighted on the same scroll. It was a very large one, and it had very good, clear writing. So even standing back in a museum, you could be able to see the style of writing. And that particular one, not all of them have it, but that one actually has the number that it was catalogued in when it came to Prague during the Shoah, and it's painted, tattooed on the roller. Unique scroll, very, very special. And although it normally takes normally a couple of months, sometimes it takes longer to approve, to agree, to arrange the allocation of a scroll, this was done virtually in 24 hours. It was such an impressive thing for us. And His Excellency was able to take the scroll back with him when he came to Dubai. So we were really, really impressed with that. The thing for us is so impressive that a community can have a scroll, but to have one in a museum in a Muslim country is very, very special. Somehow it was destiny that brought us together to enable this to happen. And we are very, very proud that our scroll is here in this wonderful museum, and I know that it will be used in a very positive and memorable way. We share the same mission, that the history of people joins them together. And I would just like to say that we both feel that the use of the scroll, this scroll which binds all Jews together, a Torah binds all Jews together, but it is also the Pentateuch, the Old Testament of Christianity, and our Torah, the 5 books of Musa in Islam. And I know that being on display here, being used here, it will help remind people of what they have in common rather than what divides them. Thank you very much.
Sometimes even objects have neshama, have a soul. This particular Sefer Torah lied in storage for 80 years. And when these two men met, it suddenly shouted, I want to be there. Please do not leave before seeing that scroll. It's in the Holocaust exhibition, right in this one, and I hope you have time to see it and to understand what I was saying. I want to call now on Sarah Ben Shimol, the Jewish agency representative in this country, to share her words with us.
Good evening. It was 14 years ago when my dad embarked me in an unforgettable journey. In 2009, I visited Auschwitz concentration camp with our late president, Shimon Peres. That day changed my perception of my Jewish identity. Since then, two sentences are engraved in the deepest of my memory. Never forget, never again. Today, standing in front of you on behalf of the Jewish Agency for Israel, I would like to extend my deep appreciation to the Crossroad Civilization Museum. Thank you, His Excellency Ahmed Al-Mansouri, for organizing this event of historic importance, and to the honorable government of Israel, of the UAE, for taking bold steps aimed at upholding the duty of memory and promoting an education of tolerance, mutual respect, and coexistence. Thanks to our dear ambassador, Amir Haik, for making those events possible in this country. Thanks a lot, Her Excellency Liron, the Consul General, for letting us, the Jewish Agency, partnering on those historical moments. Together, we will stand strong as proud friends and allies in front of hatred, ignorance, and atrocity. Please, never forget, never again. Thank you.
I want to call on Ross Creel, the Jewish representative for the government of Dubai, to share with us a few words on behalf of the Jewish community of Dubai, and also he will announce the Yizkor. Would you do that for us? Thanks, Ross.
Thank you, dear friend Edwin Shuker. Excellencies, community leaders, rabbis, friends. This is the third year in which a memorial service has been conducted in a formal setting to mark International Holocaust Remembrance Day, or Yom HaShoah, here in Dubai in its Al Shandiga Historical District. This service occurs at the Crossroads of Civilization Museum, which houses the region's first Holocaust exhibition, We Remember, which is dedicated to the victims of the Holocaust. The launch of this exhibition in 2021 made the Crossroads of Civilization Museum a focal point for Holocaust remembrance and education. It serves that purpose tonight with distinction and in the merit of its founder, our dear friend Ahmed Al-Mansouri. As a community leader in Dubai, my focus has been on the values that can be internalized by us as a Jewish community and transmitted from Dubai to the Jewish world. There are two values that require particular emphasis: tolerance, as a value of moderation and inclusion originating in the Quran and developed here in the UAE into a contemporary principle of pluralism, governance, statecraft, and diplomacy. And the value of future focus, an approach of assuming agency vis-a-vis the future that allows for visionary outcomes and optimism about the future that is so beautifully captured in the Museum of the Future and the Dubai frame. The relationship between tolerance and Holocaust commemoration is clear. The Holocaust serves as a warning to all generations, in all places, that the opposite of tolerance is various forms of violent extremism, the logical extension of which is genocide. Nazi Germany was the most lurid and ghastly proof of this. But what about the value of the future? If Dubai is the capital city of the future, how do we relate to Holocaust remembrance from here? There are many distinguishing features of our Jewish community here in Dubai. Perhaps primary among them is the fact that we're the first new Jewish community to emerge in a Muslim and Arabic country for centuries. There's no precedent or playbook for our formation. Here, it's possible for us to imagine reframing key Jewish experiences and memories, including even the way that we relate to the Holocaust itself. Here in Dubai, we may be permitted to hope that remembering the Holocaust is not tinged with deep cynicism about the human propensity for violent hatred. Here in Dubai, we may permit ourselves to imagine a future where human beings can express and develop compassion for each other, experiencing each other's cycles of grief, joy, and spiritual elevation together. And here, especially because this commemoration occurred at a museum, we may imagine a future in which notions of tolerance and mutual recognition are supported not only by abstract principles, but also by a rigorous fact-based scholarship and education. Dear Ahmed, we as a Jewish community are honored by your work and the attention that it has attracted internationally. For your commitment to making this commemoration an annual event and your devotion to Holocaust education, we owe you a profound debt of gratitude. Your personality is more persuasive than any words could be of the hope that can be nurtured for our shared human future. Thank you, Ahmed. I'm going to go into the prayer Yizkor, which I'm going to read in Hebrew. I would suggest that everybody should rise for this, please. Tivilot Yizkor Lahalalei HaShoah, the memorial prayer for the victims of the Holocaust. Yizkor Lehim, El Kol HaNeshama Shel Kol HaKehilot Beit Yisrael, Shalol Al Mekayim Bishnot HaShoah, Tafshin Ad Tafshin Hey, 6 מיליון אנשים ונשים, ילדים וילדות, בכורים ותולות, זקן וטף, שנהרגו ושנטבחו באכזריות, איימו ונרצחו ברצח המונים במקומות מגוריהם, בערים ביערות ובכפרים, ויתרם ובלו, למנות הריכוז, ונספו ממיתות משונות ונוראות, ונשרפו לאפר בכבשני האש של המנות ההשמדה האיומים בגרמניה ובפולין ובשאר הארצות בידי עם המרצחים בגרמני עם עוזרי הרוצחים משאר העמים שהיו בעצה אחת להשמיד ולהרוג ולאבד את העם היהודי ממאות את זך היהודות אוכלות כל אשר בשם ישראל יקראל אל נקמות שופט הארץ זכור נא את נחלי הדם שנשפך כמים דמי אבות ובנים אמהות ולאלוהיהן רבנים ותלמידיהם והשב גמור שבעתיים לצורי עמך שב עד שמע ישראל שזעקו הכוחים למוות אל תדום ונקמת העונים תעלה לפני כיסא כבודך לנקום במהרה בימינו על עינינו אל נקמת דם בניך ובנותיך הקדושים והטהורים שלא זכו לקבר ישראל ככתוב כי דם עבדיו יקום ונקם ישיב לצרף וכיפר אדמתו עמו.
Can I call on Rabbi Mendel Duchman, Mr. Idan Tamler, and Rabbi Mendy Blau to come to the stage, please. Please stay standing if you don't mind. Rabbi. You do the element. It's your turn.
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים דיין אלמנות ואבי יתומים המצא מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מאירים ומזהירים לנשמות 6 מיליונים אחינו ואחיותינו רבבות אלפי ישראל אנשים נשים וטף שנהרגו שנשחטו שנשרפו שנחנקו שנקברו חיים ושהומתו בכל מיני מיתות משונות ואכזריות בידי הגרמנים הנאצים מעוזריהם ושהלכו לעולמם על קידוש השם בעבור שאנו מתפללים לעילוי נשמותיהם לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים וייצור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם אדוני הוא נחלתם וינוחו בשלום על משכבותם ונאמר אמן
שיר מזמר לאסף, אלוהים אדוני לך אל תחרש ואל תשקוט אל, כי הנה אביך ימיון ומשנאך נשאו ראש. על עמך ירימו סוד ויסצו על צפונך, אמרו לכו ונחידם מגוי ולא יזכרו שם ישראל עוד, כי נעצו לב יחדיו, עליך בריס יחרסו, עלי אדם וישמעאל עמי בהריגם. גבול ועמון ועמלק, פלש עשים יושבי צל, גם אשר נלווה עמם היו זרוע לפני לא צלע, עשה להם כמדיין, כסיסרא קיה ומנחל קישן. נשמדו בעין דאור היו דוימן לאדמה, שיסמן אדמנו כעורף, כזאב כזבח, כחצלמונה כל נסיכמו, אשר אמרו נרשל לנו אס נעש עליהם, אלוהי שיסמן כגלגל, כקש לפני רוח, כאש תבר יער כל אהב תעלה תרים, כן תרדפם בארצך ושמך תעלם. מלא פניהם כלן ויבקשו שמך אדוני, יבשו ויבלו עד היד ויעבדו. ידעו כי אתה שמך אדוני לבדך עליון על כל הארץ.
קדיש יתום. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי ויצמח פורקן ויקרב משיחה, בחייכון וביום מכון וחדר כל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב עמו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ביתרומה מתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעילה מכל בחטא ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ועמו אמן. יש למה רבה מן שמי וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומה ויעשה שלום עלינו על כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
All that remains now, we are lighting 3 candles. Help. I'm going to call on Dr. Hawa al-Mansouri. Dr. Hawa is a member of the Federal National Council of the United Arab Emirates. Marhaban biki, Doctora, Sharaftina. And I'd like you to light one of the candles on behalf of all the wonderful Emirati friends we have here, Amjad, Saud, Ahmed. So would you please do us the honor? Yes, one. Whatever you like, so it's more comfortable for you. Thank you. I'm going to call, thank you very much, on Sharon Mintz, representing Diaspora Jewry, to light the second candle. I'm going to call on Yael Grafi, the curator of the exhibition, and representing Israel, and thank you, Yael, for all the work you have ever done for us. This concludes the formal events tonight. I'm just going to call on my mentor, Ahmed al-Mansouri, and I'm going to be presenting him a personal gift for me. A Torah in Arabic, translated by Hacham Saadia Gaon, the best Arabic translation of the Torah, to thank you for your incredible visionary work. And if you want to invite them to...
Thank you very much, Edwin. Thank you very much for it's a blessing to have you. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. Please, you want to have a seat? Please have a seat. It's not going to take a long time, just 45 minutes. Thank you for being with us. Without all of you, this event will not be, success. I sincerely would like to thank our dearest VVVIP, our hero, Jad'oun, Lev, thank you much for sharing your story with us. Thank you for being with us. Thanks, it's a great honor. And of course, all of the excellencies and everyone here. But for me, if you don't mind, for me, he's the hero. Because you are the hero of the hope. Thanks a lot. And you're welcome to see all galleries, and I would like to call my dear Yael Grafi, if she's herself offered, to give you a special tour there. If you'd like to go, it will be great to hear from the curator, the one who made it. Thank you very much. Thanks you all. Good evening. Also enjoy the food, please.